you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Julian, for disclosure of a very embarrassing story, which also includes falling asleep and having my eyebrows shaved, if I think he probably doesn't remember that bit. I certainly don't, because I'm not too sure what led to me falling asleep so early, but anyway, we won't go into that. So going back, that's a long way to the Air Cadets that I enjoyed with Julie and many of our friends. And the Air Cadets actually is a very good example for me of an organization where young people can get together in a positive environment, although we're drilled and we have to march and we have an interest in aircraft. I think that's some of the interests that we shared. It's certainly an organization that gave me a lot of civic pride and responsibility and respect at a very early age in my life. And obviously, everyone knows my name is Elliott Phillips, and I've been kindly introduced by Julian. I am first and foremost a family man, a politician, as I was described, and as been described by other people in our community recently, a middle-class man in a grey suit. Hopefully, I can demonstrate today that I'm definitely not that. But obviously, my life is filled, as with most of your lives as well, a daily juggle of fatherhood, politics, and my career as a lawyer in our community. If you are my son, for instance, or you're someone that is in need of help because they have a health issue or a housing issue, or in fact, if you're one of my clients who is deserving of my time as well, you often think that you come third. And I'm sorry to say that sometimes that does happen, but that's life, isn't it? We're juggling many, many interests at the same time. We're juggling our personal lives and that of our professional responsibilities as well. When Julian actually asked me to come on the event, and I'm pleased, and I'm glad he did in the end, because my initial reaction as a politician is, yes, absolutely, I'll come on the show, for sure. Why wouldn't I? 200, 300 people I can talk to about things that I believe in, my values, and why I'm a politician in Gibraltar. But obviously, on reflection, I was thinking, gosh, this is going to be difficult. I've actually got to talk to people about something that's very personal to me, about my journey, the narrative of my life. And I felt very nervous about the prospect of speaking to you all about Elliott Phillips and what he does within the community. And like many people that have been on the show, I'm sure everyone's been very nervous about it. But then I reflected on it and thought, well, look, this is an opportunity for me to share something with you, to make, politicians are sometimes very distant from the community. So I thought this was a good opportunity to share a bit about my life and also to talk about something that I'm really interested in, which is social mobility, our young people and opportunities. And I'm sure that many of you have heard me speak on the occasion of opportunities for young people, because it's really critical for the future of our community that we provide opportunity for them. And and we're very lucky, and we've all heard it down Main Street. All of us in this room, I'm sure, have heard it, and all of us acknowledge it, that we are very fortunate to live in this part of the world. It's an incredible place to live. But there are things that are bad about it, and things we try to fix, and that's why we're in politics, right? To make change. Moving just slightly on to my own narrative and my interest, and that is because sometimes I feel that there is a lost generation of young people out there. We're not all as fortunate as other people. I was very fortunate that Gibraltar gave me an opportunity to thrive, and many of us in this room have had an opportunity to thrive in opportunity through housing, through education. But not everyone has that opportunity. And I feel that my job in politics is to encourage more opportunity amongst young people so that they can take advantage of that and grow into responsible contributors to our community. I also believe that social mobility or education is the lubricant to us gaining another step on the ladder for our young people. I'm not going to give you a definition of what social mobility is, because we all have our own individual definition, and this is not for me to give an academic speech about social mobility. I'm not a psychologist, sociologist, and neither am I qualified to do so. But I wanted to share with you some references that have been made by some commentators. Michael Gove, love him or hate him, said, "The acquisition of knowledge is the key to social mobility." A former Harvard president said, "Higher education is the strongest, sturdiest ladder to increased social and economic mobility." And one that I quite like, actually, because I kind of relate to it a bit, and that's Winston Churchill, who said, "The privilege of a university education is a great one, But more widely, it is extended to other parts of the community, the better for any country. That's something I really believe in, you know. If we can extend education across the board, and we've been very lucky, in successful governments that we've had in our community, from Joe Bolzano to Peter Caruana, now to Fabian Picardo, we have all demonstrated a commitment to education and funding education in our community that opens up opportunity. And putting politics aside, we've always done that. We've always funded our students, and we've allowed the opportunity for them to go to the UK, to study, and to become fully operational members of our community. Harriet Harman, actually, again, lover or loather, another politician, once famously and negatively said about the United Kingdom, for many young people, social mobility now means a bus down the job centre. It's very negative, don't you think? And I think it demonstrates to me, and I don't like to compare Gibraltar to anywhere else in the world because I think it's unique, but the United Kingdom and the US are completely divided when it comes to their communities in terms of social mobility. So, for instance, we've all heard, I think, in this room about the lottery postcode for communities. There are thousands of people that move around the United Kingdom in order to get their kids into the right schools. How crazy is that? It's amazing to think that people would encumber themselves with huge mortgages across the nation in the United Kingdom in order to get their kids into the best possible school. Isn't that, it's just an amazing fact that people would do that. And let me just talk about a couple of statistics that I think are important to think about when we think about Gibraltar in that analysis. And what we've got to do, I think, in our community is acknowledge we've come leaps and bounds when we talk about geography, homes for people, and education. But we all have to, and I have a responsibility in our community to look realistically at it and pull up the drains and have a good dig around our community and think, what can we do better? And I just wanted to share with you something that is quite interesting. In 1970, 209 people, probably almost the entirety of the people in this room, owned their own homes in Gibraltar. In 1970. In 2012, over 5,500 people owned their own homes. An incredible statistic about opportunity, about social mobility, about people thriving, owning their own homes, aspirational people, a community growing. And I think it's an amazing statistic. I think also, if you look at education, just under 2% of the entire population of Gibraltar in 1970 had HNDs or above, which includes, of course, degrees and postgraduate degrees. But if you look at degrees and postgraduate degrees then, the percentage must be much, much, much smaller than 2%. In 2012, nearly 20% of full-time Gibraltarians in full-time employment had higher degrees. Isn't that incredible to think that we've given access to large swathes of our people in 42 years? And I think that's where we should be very proud of what we can do for people in our community by accessing opportunities such as housing, such as education. And geographically, because geographically in other countries, for example, it depends where you live, depending on where you get your opportunities from. And I think that if we look at housing, 40% of people in the last 15 years have moved, 40% of the population have moved into reclamation areas, co-ownership, homes, private dwellings. That's, again, a symbol of an aspirational community growing. And I'm very proud that Gibraltar has been able to achieve such strides in education. You just have to look at our university as well. Has been described by many people, many commentators, a magnificent building. If any of you have gone down to see it, it is an incredible place, and we should all be very, very proud of that. And just moving through some of the points that I'd like to make as well. In the last 10 years, we've had an increase of people going to university up to 20%. Again, another amazing statistic of how we have grown as a community. And therefore, we have changed. We are a community that is much more affluent, much more globally connected to the world, and much more technologically hungry. It is significant, nonetheless, to see that the more affluent that we become, therein lies a risk that we forget people. And that is my job. That's how I see my job. And we've all seen the recent GBC footage of the very squalid conditions that some of our people are living in. And I'm not here today to make a political statement about anything like that. but we have a responsibility to ensure that the people that suffer the most are provided for. And that is imperative that we do that. You know, we can get richer, we can get wealthier, we can all drive smarter cars, we can have better homes, and we're a more affluent, educated community. But we cannot leave anyone behind. And that's how I see my role in politics, in making sure young people who do not want to go to university or do not want to access what we've got available for them, that are given something else, given them apprenticeship. And that's why I've gone about this policy for a very long time and talked about it, because I truly believe, I'm very passionate about providing that possibility to other people in our community. We must be careful, I believe, in making sure that everyone gets that good start in life. I moved to Gibraltar at the age of 9. My son is now 9, so I'm now recovering all of that time from 0 to 9, and he's playing football almost 3 times a week, and it's driving me mad because I have to fit it in everything with meetings and political life. I'm rushing down to the stadium at 5 to watch him for 20 minutes and then go back, and I'm enjoying so much watching my son play football in Gibraltar because of one simple reason. It is a collective group of parents that love the sport. I was never into playing football or anything sporty at all, but it's incredible. I've learned to love football, and I've learned to love the environment of it, and it's a really positive experience. And I'm seeing, as my son has gone through the early years of education, what I missed out when I was living in England from the age of, when I was born until the age of 9. So I've been here now for 30 years. My dad, John, was a builder, and he still is a builder, still working to this day. And a lot of people call him Honest John, which I think is a good value. He taught me very important responsibilities of hard work. My father is a very hardworking man. Christina, my mother, unfortunately died at the age of 40 when I was 17 in Gibraltar. My mother was a daughter of 2 post-war Polish immigrants into the United Kingdom. So after the war, after the horrors of the war in Poland, marched through Russia, Afghanistan, all the way to South Africa, and eventually ending up on a boat in a refugee camp in Britain. It is a remarkable story. I don't have all the time in the world to tell you about it, but what I would say is, this is the classic example, this is the reason why I'm using this example, is that you have the offspring of 2 Polish immigrants that on a boat end up in, my grandparents, who end up in Bristol in the United Kingdom, to a man now that is the parliamentary leader of the opposition, a man of the practice of law with 10 people working for him. I'm very proud of what I've been able to achieve. But I've only been able to achieve it through 2 things. One, hard work and those values that have been instilled on me. But secondly, because of this place, our home, our rock. And the reason why this community is able to do that is they put the faith and confidence in their young people to deliver. They put their faith and confidence in young people to work hard to make something of ourselves. So when I talk about social mobility, and the reason why it's so important to me is because I'm in politics for that reason. Gibraltar gave me a wonderful opportunity to be not a grey middle-class man in a suit, but a young man from a working-class background to become what he wants to be, which is a successful lawyer, a family man, and also a politician that hopefully can deliver some of the changes that we are trying to do within the party that I belong to. What I would say is that there was a slight deviation from what happened to me, and Julian will know about this. Before I went to study law, I'm not too sure what happened to me, actually. It was just after my mother died from cancer, and she died, as I said, at the age of 40, which was a very traumatic experience, not only for my family, but for me as well, in fact. And I don't think you truly recover as a young man from a significant loss, particularly from a mother. And it had a significant impact on my family. And at the time, I was applying for university, so you can imagine the trauma internally within the family and how it had on me. And I found a lot of confidence and a lot of faith, not in the traditional things of recovery from loss, but in people like Nelanie Shalom, who you've heard from. She's a very old friend of mine, someone who gave me a lot of help during those very difficult times, but also my focus on delivering what I want to deliver for myself, which was education. Education unlocked that potential for me. It was the lubricant for the reform in my own life, and it helped me deal with the pain of loss, of losing my mother at such a young age. But one of the funny stories, because that's obviously a bit sensitive and a bit I like to talk about, is this little adventure into the Guildford School of Acting, one of the leading musical theatre schools of the United Kingdom. And it leads me nicely to the end of my subject, and that is I auditioned at Guildford, went through all the process for about 3 weeks, and finally got the word that I had a place. I thought, this is great, this is wonderful. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be super famous. I'm going to be acting on stage. I'm going to be the next Kenneth Branagh of the stage, or the next Billy Mitchell of EastEnders, which is probably what would have happened if I would have been involved in any type of acting. But the principal in the school said to me, he said, Elliott, are you sure you want to do this? You are a 17-year-old or 18-year-old at the time, and there's a lot of people here with a lot of life experience behind them. And I thought twice about it. I thought, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I should get some life experience. And at that age, I thought, okay, I'll give law a go. So I went to become a lawyer. And what I wanted to represent to you by that story is that Gibraltar gives an opportunity for anyone who wants to thrive, whatever they want to do. And that's why I'm in politics, because the government of the day would have funded me to go to act at a private institution, one of the best private acting schools in the country, to do a bachelor's degree in acting. Doesn't that demonstrate to us all, I think, in a way, that we are very lucky in this community to be supported by any government, whoever it is, and supported by the people to make sure that our children, our young ambassadors, go out into the world and represent us as a community. And I think that's a fabulous thing. But what I want to say to everyone here, that it's important to scale our rock, but it's also important to do so with a little bit of help from all of us in this room and in our community. And what I want to do, the message I want to deliver to people today is that I'm here to do exactly that for those that cannot access it and access that opportunity, and I'm hopeful that I can do that in years to come. Thank you very much for listening.